Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to the Lunch Zone. I'm Nathan Huppel. I'm a metadata librarian here at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee.
And I am Kelly Breivik, a PhD student in the English department at UW-Milwaukee. And today, we've strong-armed you into playing.
Into playing Yooka-Laylee. We were playing The Witcher 3, decided that we were kind of done with it, and so we switched to Yooka-Laylee, which...
So good. I love it.
I am ambivalent about, so...
I just love, just the little voices are just so silly.
See, it's so funny because I find them so annoying. But I didn't grow up with Banjo-Kazooie.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing, I barely played it as well. I mostly played, like, Donkey Kong, which still has very similar feel.
For the Nintendo 64.
Yeah. Yeah, because I didn't have a PlayStation. Only my cousin did. So we traded games sometimes where, like, you know, we'd go over to each other's house specifically because of the platform that we had.
Oh, yeah.
But he wouldn't let me play because he wanted to play it.
Right.
So. And just the music. Just kind of
it's very Saturday morning cartoon.
I know. Like, you know that they're bad not just because of the character design, but because of the music.
Mm-hmm. We'll watch the intro.
Yeah.
Do you want to watch the intro, or did you want to talk about Horizon Zero Dawn?
I will talk about that because the day that you were out and you told us to play something, we played this instead. We went through the intro.
Oh, okay.
So I've seen this before.
Okay, I can skip it.
Okay. So pretty much I started playing Horizon Zero Dawn yesterday because Josh, like, talked it up so much. And when I first bought my PlayStation, I went, hey, Josh, like, I feel like we have similar tastes in games. What should I get?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, Horizon Zero Dawn. And I went, okay. But I also got Final Fantasy, so I just, like, tried 100% completing, got about, like, 95%, and went, that's close enough.
Wait, which Final Fantasy?
10.
Okay.
The remake, because I just really wanted it. And I enjoyed it, but now I'm at, like, an impasse where it's like, you got to do the grind for a really long time, and I already did, and I'm like, alright, I'm going to put it down, and then I'll do the grind later.
Okay.
And I picked up Horizon Zero Dawn, and I'm like, holy shit, this is everything that I didn't like about The Witcher, it fixed in a way. So for example, it's a, like, quote unquote, I think it's like post-apocalyptic, it's like 1,000 years in the future.
Okay.
And everyone is mostly tribal. The machine underground world where, like, the remnants of the old society are strictly forbidden, and then there are those who are outcasts, and the outcasts are just straight up ignored. It's against law to talk to them.
Okay.
And the person that you play was outcast at birth. And we don't know, I don't know why yet, because I've only played for about an hour.
Okay.
And it just reminded me a lot of Witcher, where, like, the Witchers are not necessarily outcasts, but they're, you know, kind of a different part of society, just like you are as a player character. But rather than highlighting all of the, like, shitty people, they introduce you to the people who break the law to talk to you, who break the law to trade with you, who break the law to just interact with you as a human being, or do rituals that people who are outcasts do not have access to. So I just thought that was really interesting, where they set up the world in a way that, yeah, there's conflict and quote-unquote bad things happening, but they're highlighting the good people who interact with you despite that. Whereas Witcher is just like, hey, here's some shitty people, look at them a lot. By the way, rabbits fucking.
That, like, ruined it for you. I think you were, like, sort of, okay, this is okay, but then the rabbits fucking, like, completely ruined it for you.
It really did ruin it. I mean, because there was already, like, titties in the scene, like, we get it. But yeah, just the aesthetics is so beautiful. I thought they did a really interesting way of doing the tutorial mode, like, because you always have to learn how to use this stuff. So you started out as, like, a 6-year-old with your adoptive dad, teaching you how to hunt, teaching you how to be all this stuff, and eventually You get the little montage, and now you have your full set of things now that you've been taught as the 6-year-old how to use it.
Okay.
And now you're like a, I don't know, 18 to mid-20, like late teens, early 20s.
Okay.
But yeah.
So...
We're talking a lot about a game we're not playing. I just wanted to, yeah.
You just wanted to, well, you know, I gotta say, it kind of sucks because I really want to play this game, and it's a exclusive, and I just...
Well, maybe once the semester starts where I don't have time to play PS4, I'll just bring it in here, we'll pop the razor on it.
Yeah.
But right now I'm not willing to give it up.
I
really want to play it.
Like,
I'm already thinking about going.
Well, and we talked a bit about it before, where, you know, having an open world game like that is not really, it's not really beneficial to streaming the way that we're streaming. So.
Yeah. So back to this Yooka-Laylee.
Yes.
So you don't like the little voices? Me.
I don't. Maybe it's okay in the dialogue, but I do not like it in the menu, because as I'm going through the menu and it's like, I'm just like, oh my god.
It's like watching, like you've got young kids, so I'm sure that it's giving you like more flashbacks to all the little games they play and shows they watch.
It's not, no, it's worse.
This or what your kids watch?
What?
This or what your kids watch?
This? Can we talk about the double jump? Because I find it interesting. I'm not sure...
Okay. Physics-wise, or...?
Why it's a thing. I mean, it's a prevalent thing in games, and I'm not sure what... like, where did it come... It's interesting, because, you know, I understand the jump. Like, obviously, we jump, and it's a navigational thing to get onto various stuff. But the double jump, it's like, well, where did that come from? Like, why?
I think it comes from wanting to scale things or be bigger than you are. So, like, if you have to get over a really tall wall, or maybe it's a cool tool to have when you're fighting a boss and you could double jump over him, you could avoid the thing. And
so it's kind of a superpower?
Sort of. Because I just think of, like, oh yeah, like when I play D&D, and I really want to give them a hard monster that I just love this monster, and I would love them to, but they would get murked at the level that they are. So maybe I'll give them a weapon that is just specifically good for that monster, and it's a little overpowered, but it'll work for that monster. So, like, I think maybe the game designers wanted to just have something like that where, yeah, this is too big for someone who could just do a normal jump, so let's introduce this new mechanic so they can do cooler things. That's fun to have and fun to play. It's like weird character voice ASMR.
Oh god.
Now, my favorite thing about games like this, and especially of like the late 90s era, is like they'll show you the whole route that you're supposed to take. But here's the fun thing, like, yeah, that's the straightforward way, but like it's guiding the player in a certain way, because we've talked in the past about architectures and game design. So what is, like, yes, that functions as a way for young players or first-time players to know what the goal is and how to get there. But also, what does that do with game exploration and interacting with other elements?
It's always interesting to me how games sort of, in a lot of ways, expect you to get off the path. Like, the games are designed for you, or they should be a lot now, like, designed for you. The first thing you do, a lot of people do in a game, is try to kind of break the game. Like, see, what are my limits? You know, it's not... I think as game players, as experienced game players, that's sort of what you tend to do. People that are seeing a game for the first time are need to have their hand held a little bit more so they can figure out the rules of the game. But once you understand them, then you want to see what are the rules that I can break. And I think these games, especially the like exploration games, that's a really important dynamic for them, is to have those areas that you can explore in, because people that are gonna like, you know, what's up here? Oh, I can't go up there yet, you know. But now I know that there's an area that I can come back to, right? And I also know that because especially in the early stages, those areas aren't there as much, because this is still the tutorial. This is still showing you how to play the game. But sometimes there are those areas that you can... Oh shit.
You do it.
There are those areas in the early stages of the game that can let you skip things, or you know, give you bonus items at the very beginning.
There's actually so when I was playing Horizon Zero Dawn yesterday, there was this one part before you even got the navigational system where you're walking around a cave that you fell into. And I'm just trying to find, like, the way out, but in my head, I'm like, okay, right now, I'm not exploring. What items am I missing that'll really help me out later in? Because, like, typically you're used to these secret things that once you leave the area, then it's gone.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think sometimes it can go too far. Like, I feel like I was playing, and I stopped playing it after a while, Final Fantasy... Lightning Returns.
Okay.
And, you know, I got to a point and I was like, okay, what do I need to do here? So I looked it up on GameFAQs, and I'm like, that's right. Like, I used to play Final Fantasy with a printout of the GameFAQs, like right here, like paging through it to figure out what are the things in this dungeon and how can I get them, and, you know, what's the best strategy here. And sometimes, and it may be because I'm used to that dynamic, or it feels like Final Fantasy oftentimes is not a game that you can play without having some of those guides.
Yep.
And that's, I mean, I don't know if it's good or bad. It is what it is.
I think it's a little bad. Because one of the reasons why I'm at an impasse right now is because I didn't go back and get the Saturn crest or something. And now because I didn't, I have to fight a boss with 5 million EXP. Without the weapon that I need to fight it, because it's in there.
Yeah. Right. Now, did you use a guide when you were playing the game?
No.
No. But you had played it before.
I'd played it before, but I never got the Celestial Weapon. So, like, I played through it for the sake of playing through it again for nostalgia's sake. And then I was like, you know what? Like, middle school Kelly never got the Celestial Weapon, but college Kelly is. College Kelly's not. She got most of them, so that's a plus. I also am almost done completing a sphere grid for one of them, including activating all of the empty nodes, going around every single person's sphere. Like, Titus is my boy right now. But, like, I'm stuck a little because I can't get one of the weapons because of just not going back and getting something at the right time.
Right. Alright, this is the first level, actually. Okay, finally. Oh my god.
Another reason why, so, it has break limit and HP limit. And you have to spend so much time farming certain elements to make armor and weapons that break that limit.
Mm-hmm.
So even though my character could have 15,000 HP and do about like almost 200,000 HP worth of damage, it only does 99,000 HP of damage and has half of his HP because it can only go up to 9,999. So like those elements are frustrating to me because like mechanically, like if I have a certain amount of health, what does the type of armor I have anything to do with it?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm able to hit something really, really hard, like maybe the weapon breaks, that would make sense. If you don't have a break damage limit weapon that's not strong enough to handle your swing, but you should at least be able to swing it like most people.
Are you applying D&D logic to Final Fantasy?
No, because you have game stats.
Okay.
In Final Fantasy, like in the sphere grid, you could pop open that triangle and see that, like, what strength you have, what HP, what this, what that, you know. And right now, I know for a fact that the damage is getting limited because the max damage is 99,999, just straight up, even with your break damage limit. Whereas certain Aeons, which are like the superpowered beings, can do more than that, but only when they do their overdrive, which is their special attack. So, like, even though my character physically can do more than 100,000 HP of damage, it's not because the game implemented no more than 99,999 damage for non-overdrive, non-Aeon.
I always feel like learning the systems of the new Final Fantasies is so weird and convoluted. Like, that wasn't necessarily the case in the first few. Like, I mean, if you knew the system in Final Fantasy 1, I think you could still probably
get... One is still a little weird.
One is really weird, but you could still probably get along in Final Fantasy 6. Like, but then, you know, then they started kind of playing around with the system a little bit, and, you know, and every new game has a totally new system. Like, even, I mean, Final Fantasy 15 is like real-time, I think it's like real-time action.
It's like a MOBA?
Yeah, kind of. Alright.
Yeah. I tried playing 14 the other day. And I really like the aesthetics of it, but my issue is the text is so small.
Oh, interesting. And you can't change that?
I probably can, but it's very buggy on the PS4. Like, it's, you know how, like, when you try to use internet on the Wii, before it was, like, ready to...
Oh, no, but I can imagine.
Okay. It's kind of like that. Like, it's kind of converting something that really wasn't meant to be on a PS4 screen, so there probably is a way. But the thing is, like, the text is like itty bitty, and I don't have a small TV. It's not huge, but it's not that small. And I'm just like, I'm not having fun because there's so much text in here. There's no voice acting, so I can't rely on listening. Not to say that it's bad that there's no voice acting, but at least make the text big.
Right. I cannot get into MMOs, yeah. I just can't. It just seems like this is it's just an area that I think has kind of passed me by. Like, I maybe at one point could have gotten into them, but I never bothered with it, and so at this point I'm just kind of like, whatever. But I've heard such good things about Final Fantasy XIV that I am kind of interested in it.
It is really nice. There's a lot of character customization that you can do, with the exception of, besides like the child race, like all the females are like, here, everything else bear.
Yeah, that does
so
seem
I
to be.
So I played a child. Hello, Play Scholar. Thank you for joining in. What was I gonna say? So I played like a hot 45 minutes because another issue is not Final Fantasy's fault, but my PS4 does not like connecting to the internet. So, or rather, my internet doesn't like doing anything, regardless of what I'm trying to use with it.
Yeah, that is a problem with MMOs.
Yeah.
So this is a race, and it seems
I hate races.
I hate them too. But this definitely seems like something you're gonna have to do in these games. You gotta do.
Absolutely is. Get that butterfly. You got it.
Yeah, and I gotta get the butterflies. I learned the hard way. Otherwise, my power. This race is pretty easy if I'm. Oops, shit. If I'm rolling, it's impossible if I'm not rolling, and I have a power limit on that. Fuck. See. So then I gotta get. Oh, God, Christ. And I did this before in another game. What the frick? That's good. I can always try again. As many times as you want, which is not many.
One is more than what I want.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
My daughter was playing Super Mario Kart.
You got some shade. All that sweatiness for the runner-up spot. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. My daughter was playing Mario Kart with me, and she is terrible. It's amazing how terrible she is. I mean, like, you play the 50cc on Mario Kart, and I feel like you're almost guaranteed to win the race. Like, it's pretty easy. And she always comes in last, because she doesn't know what she's doing at all. It's interesting watching her try to figure out the controls, which seem so intuitive. Oh my god.
Well,
at this point, but they're not. They're not intuitive. This controller is has like a million buttons, you know.
Yep. I actually was having a similar issue with Final Fantasy XIV, which assumes that you've already played an MMO. And like I had before, but not in a while, so it took me a little bit. But like there was just a lot of things that I was like, but why? Oh, that's why.
Well, the only MMO I played more than a little bit of, well, no, it was still a little bit of, but it was like actually getting into the game, was the Secret World, because it came in a Humble Bundle or something. And I was just so flabbergasted by the controls of it, which, you know, you
run out of energy too.
Yeah, which, you know, you move, because I'm so used to single-player games where you move around with the mouse, and it's just totally different. But whatever. Alright. Yay, I got a page.
So what else bothers you about Yooka-Laylee? Because you fought this a bit.
I don't want to be too negative about it, and I don't mind it. I just, you know, maybe what it is part of it is this sort of open level design. I just don't find compelling. Oh, come on. Oh my god.
I don't like games that don't have maps or quest markers, so I can get that in this game.
Yeah, it's not too bad. I can kind of tell where I'm going. So that's not terrible for me, but
got like an elephant over here.
I got it, yeah. Oh, get to the point. I don't know what it is. I have such... It's just... I have a very short fuse with this game. I'm not sure why. I don't find this dialogue particularly clever or interesting. Also, I didn't... Like, I got to the end of that, I didn't even know what they said. What the fuck? What am I supposed to do? Now do I have to talk to her again? What am I supposed to do? What do you want? Have you found a Molly Cool yet? Okay, a Molly Cool. I have no idea what that is. or where I'm supposed to look for that. That's okay. I'm going to get some more pages, because that is what I'm tasked with doing. Yeah, I realized...
You don't get EXP for beating up enemies.
What?
It's another game where you don't get EXP.
This is true. I realized that I didn't like these types of games that much when I got Super Mario Odyssey for the Nintendo Switch, which really is an open world game for... I mean, it's not entirely open world like you would think, like Witcher... Whoops. Oh well. Is, but it's an open world in that you have to go look for the different collectibles and things like that. And it... You know, I'm so much more used to these games being fairly straightforward and having some exploratory content that is extra, as opposed to the exploratory content being
necessary.
Yeah, and I think that's what kind of because then I just get into like a lot of wandering around, trying to figure out where I'm going.
Yeah.
And that's not that fun. I don't know. I mean, the graphics are cool. The design is charming. Oh, Jesus.
Rough.
But I'm just not feeling the design. I don't know. I understand that it's totally different for other people. I don't know. I don't get it.
I think because I love camp things.
Is this camp? Do you consider this camp?
I wouldn't call it camp, but it's very reminiscent of it.
Okay.
And it's funny because my sister got she's a criminal justice undergrad at John Jay.
Okay.
And she hasn't really talked about camp before in her field of study. Whereas, like, we talked about it a fair amount.
Yeah, right.
In media and film.
Sure.
And she was just so mad at, like, well, what's camp? What's not camp? Like, why is it camp? Who says? Why does it have to change? And I'm just like, it's just fun.
Well, okay, let's talk about that. What is camp? Like, why... Well, you said this is reminiscent of camp.
Yeah, because the thing is, I wouldn't say that it's, like, totally camp, because it's not really a parody, it's not really... And not to say that all camp is parody, but, like, this is very specifically trying to mimic Banjo-Kazooie, and I don't feel like that was camp either. Like, that was just, like, a kid's game, and this is just playing off of nostalgia. And things can become camp, like, things that are originally not camp can become camp in a, like, historical sense.
Oh, sure, of course, yeah.
Like the early Doctor Who, like, they were really trying their best to make good effects and compelling story, and it worked for the late 60s, but boy, does it not work now. Like, that's often described as camp now, even though it necessarily wouldn't have been in the late 60s.
Well, it might. Well, it's hard to tell. I mean,
could be. I mean, there's definitely a lot of aspects of it. Or just look at the 2005 reboot. The first couple of episodes, that it was camp through and through. Both at the time it was released and looking back. So this one, I feel like I wouldn't call it camp because it's trying to invoke a certain aesthetic and nostalgia. So.
Would you consider this a pastiche?
Can you describe what that is?
My impression of pastiche is it's sort of like the parody without the humor. It's almost like it's taking something from...
Like something that's derivative without the negative connotation?
Yeah, it's evoking something else to be... to maybe comment on it, but not necessarily criticize it.
I wouldn't say that it is then, because I don't think it's a comment on the gameplay or anything like that, unless it's trying to comment on nostalgia, which I feel. I mean, I know that the quote-unquote 90s kids don't have a monopoly on nostalgia, but holy shit do they talk about it. I say that, I mean, I am a 90s kid, but I just feel like if someone were parodying the amount that 90s kids talk about nostalgia, then yeah, I would say it's prestige. But beyond that, I would just say probably not. It's probably just a game where they're like, alright, this worked out. We haven't made one of these in a while. We don't have the rights to that, so let's do this.
Well, it's actually kind of interesting because the sequel to this is more, apparently, it hasn't come out yet, but it's apparently more reminiscent of Super Mario World in terms of having, it's a side-scroller. It's not, yeah, I reluctantly enjoy this game, I think. But I'm not sure. Maybe part of it is I don't think I have the time for this game right now. Like,
I love it.
What the hell is that other piece? I just got it earlier today. There it is.
I was actually just about to say, like, what about, like, trying to find, going on these treasure hunts where it's, like, hidden in an obscure thing?
It depends on how hidden and obscure it is. I like if there's some sort of clue so that you can kind of go in the right direction or know that you're going in the right direction. If it's just like, you know, behind a wall that you need to hit 3 times or something, and there's no indication that you need to do that, then that becomes kind of tedious. I also find this meta humor kind of weird. There's this weird strain of meta humor in this that comments on video game conventions, which can be kind of fun, but I don't know, maybe I feel like they overplay this.
It's true, but look at that donut belt.
The donut belt is pretty cool. I like that.
But no, I get it. I was actually just reading Marvel 1602 yesterday, where it's pretty much all the Marvel characters transported into, like, 1602 Europe and America. And it was, like, parodying the characters in their normal setting. Not necessarily parodying, but kind of, you know, transporting it. And, like, I felt like the whole... They were relying too heavily on the comment of, oh, that's funny. Peter Parker is like Petrus Park, and Parker spelt in a weird way, and like kind of like just relying too heavily on that sort of thing as opposed to creating a compelling story and like good page composition, which I did not feel like that had good page composition. Like I mean, the art was okay. I'm not saying it was bad art. It's just it wasn't very dynamic in terms of how the panels were laid out.
His bow he takes to war around the island with a high score. His bow he takes to war around the island with a high score. Any idea what that might mean?
No, I'm thinking there's going to be a mini game in our near future, though.
Yeah, sounds like it.
And we're going to have to beat it in order to get them.
I'm going to go up here. I'm not sure if there's a... No, actually, I know there's not a page up there. I think I may have enough pages to do the next thing that we're supposed to be doing.
Just look at those pants. I just love that.
I do like the pants. Sonar shot. What do you think? I can get 2 here.
I would say... I don't know.
Alright, I need to do the sonar shot.
And I would say Buddy Slam for the second one, if only because it doesn't require, like, materials. Like Slurp Shot, you need to have,
Oh, an edible lock. Okay. Alright.
Nice.
So, I think... No. There we go.
Nice.
What are these things? Oh god.
What? Too many?
Yeah. Doesn't even look like there's anything open at all.
Well, unless you
frick.
fall.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna try to go back to the...
You could smash that one.
Nope.
Darn.
Let's try that move out over here, though. Massive damage. Okay, let's, I think I have enough pages to either go to a different world or expand this one. So I will do that.
I do get what you say with the open worldness, though, because it is frustrating to not have an idea on where to go, where you have to rely on almost a walkthrough to know what you could get and where.
Yeah, yeah. Or even if you're getting all that you can get, you know. I don't know if this... Okay, I'm gonna instead of expanding that one, I'm gonna go to see if I can go to level 2.
I love this music.
Oh.
Looks like a sonar thing. Oof. I do like that they have this stuff laid out in front of you, like all the different places that you could go and unlock in the future. Like that lava thing.
Yeah. Well, man, you really have to be right on top of them.
I think it's better for larger enemies. Oh, there you go, a little smashy one. Look at that. See, it's good you got the smashy.
Yeah, brilliant.
So what does it say when you have the option to skip a cutscene like this?
On the first time? Well, I think most games have your option to skip a cutscene, but...
Right.
I mean, it does seem to suggest that the story is not as important as the gameplay, which I think a lot of people would agree with, but which is weird because these cutscenes are not short. You know... and I don't know. I would almost feel guilty skipping the cutscene. You know.
Yep. Well, it's funny because I mean, don't get me wrong, I like playing video games, but if there's a story to it, I wouldn't want to skip it the first time.
Yeah.
Part of the reason why, yes, I'm looking forward to hunting and farming items in Horizon Zero Dawn, but why are they outcasts? I really want to know, and I really want to know that more than I want to see how good I can shoot a machine in the eye.
Yeah. I also feel like games, and I'm not paying attention to this right now, but I think I'm going to actually skip it. I also feel like games have the potential to involve you in a story more, potentially, let's say, oh my god. May have the potential to involve you in a story that is not as good. A video game story doesn't have to be as involved or as well written as, say, a novel to be compelling, because just by the simple act of almost withholding that story from you, you get more involved in it.
Yep. Yep.
I'll lose a life? Oh, okay.
Try that. It's a good thing you went back to see what she wanted.
Anyway, those bogus butterfly boosters, how many have you stolen so far?
Oh boy.
The deceitful salesman Trouser, how many quills does he require for his very first move? That was 5. Was it 10?
Maybe.
How long has it taken you to get this far?
Well, we've been playing for 40 minutes.
Crackers. Okay. Disappointing monument boss. Rampa. What does he hate? I knew that from the last play that I did. Alright. We have in total.
You just spent 60 of which.
Yay!
Nice. So what I like about that is, like, even though there are things that you can Google, like, you know, like, there's at least a level of individuality.
Yeah.
Like how long have you played? How many things do you have?
Yeah.
Which I like, even though it's...
Alright. Now where am I going?
And I will say, like, this is the kind of game that I would only want to play with other people.
Well, how do you mean?
Like, this is, like, I wouldn't sit in my room and play this game like I would with a lot of others. Like, I would want to have someone to talk about, to enjoy it with. I don't feel like it would be enjoyable. Like, one of my favorite parts of Ocarina of Time was using chickens to glide.
Oh! Jerk!
Rude.
Guess I didn't need that, but that's okay. Man, those plants are really getting in the way. Okay, let's go to the second world. An ice world.
Nice.
It's interesting that they have 2 stages of worlds. They have
like the base and then...
Yeah, and then an expanded one.
Well, it's very much like Mario 64. You've got the castle that you unlock, the different...
No, that's not what I mean.
Sorry.
They... Like, that's the central hub there.
But then you can expand the...
Yeah, so, like, you can come out once you've collected enough pages and make this world bigger or make it different. And that... I'm not sure if I've seen any precedent for that before. So did you play Banjo-Kazooie when you were a kid?
Very little. I watched my cousin play mostly because he would not share the controller.
So he... Oh, was that on PlayStation or was it on...
I thought it was on PlayStation.
Oh, I thought it was on Nintendo 64, but I could be wrong.
Let me double check that. Because if it was on N64, I didn't have it, but he did, which is why.
I can't get up there.
Oh no, it is N64, so that's my mistake. But he had it and I didn't.
Okay.
Which was the important point of that story. Then I'm trying to think of what was on the PS1 that he played. I mean, there was Metal Gear. That came later. Resident Evil. Though
I was terrible at that. I'm awful. I remember a friend of mine got Resident Evil 2, and we just couldn't get out of the first screen. It was like...
Yeah. Oh, no, that's tough, because isn't that the one where you're in the fire and you have to go into the gun shop?
I don't know. I have no idea how we were supposed to do it. It's interesting. Looks like those things pick up other items and use them. But yeah, I was terrible at it.
I like that they give you the essential moves for free, though. And
it's
so
interesting that... Yeah. Well, but the other moves, I think... You jerks. Take that. Like, that's kind of an essential move to get those guys, but... and that's fine. I mean, you know, these games kind of rely on the idea that you're progressing through them and the progress. I mean, the thing that always gets me with these games is that...
Can you start with it?
No.
Yeah.
The thing that always gets me with these games is that, and I don't mean like it bothers me. I mean it's why I play them is that you get these special moves that open up new areas, you know, and it's always like one step. They show you that new area just so you can get them. He's missing a hat, I think.
Yeah.
See, that wasn't so hard. That was easy. You didn't need to, like, give me a whole spiel. I'm missing a hat. Go get it. Ugh. Oh my god.
You're almost dead.
Oh! Ho, ho, ho. No fair.
Rough.
Alright.
It's okay, you just pop back in.
One thing I will say that's nice about this game...
Friendly dying?
Yeah, it could be that, you know, you have a limited number of lives. I am so glad that that convention has kind of gone...
Yeah.
Oops.
Like, I was just thinking, like, with Final Fantasy 1, it costs a lot of money to save and to heal, whereas, like, Final Fantasy 10, you're like, oh, you look at a save point, back to healthy.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, I do think, you know, there's a lot of different game conventions that have taken a long time to sort of really perfect, or they've discovered, like, what inhibits fun more than enhances it. Because the rationale, I think, for the strange save games... Well, there was a couple rationales for the strange save games in Final Fantasy 1. First of all, there wasn't a lot of room to save.
And it was, like, only one of the very few games you could save.
Right. And it had to have a battery backup, and once that battery backup was gone, the whole thing was gone. But it's also, like... What that did was it made you really kind of risk something by going into dungeons.
And Hall of Giants.
And you don't get that in as much. I mean, there's still save points in Final Fantasy, but they're much more plentiful and they don't cost money as much. But I don't think they've lost too much by that. Oh, there's a...
No.
What is this bullshit? Bullshit. Alright. Is there... I don't know if this is not something I'm necessarily interested in pursuing, but I'll bring it up. I mean, is there a capitalistic aspect to these games in terms of collecting certain tokens that you can then spend on? And what is that? Is it? It's not a critique. Is it just part of how these games are, the society that these games are a part of, or?
I think it's one of those things where they're introduced innocuously, but also upholding cultural norms of what it, of the society at the time. It's normal for us to have to collect things and resources as means of payment. So I think it's more, I don't think that they did it as a critique. I think that it's worth looking into. But I think that it was one of those, oh yeah, this is what works, this is what we do, this is how it is. And it's holding up certain norms, not saying good or bad, but I think that's kind of its function there.
Well, it's certainly compelling. I mean, that's one of the things that gets you enticed in this game, is getting more and more of those things, so you can buy things that you see that you want, that allows you to get in different areas.
But then there's also like the completionist aspect of it as well.
Yeah.
Like anytime I leave something that oh no, there's those butterflies, like even though they're a resource not to be collected, I'm just like, but you left them.
This guy needs a hat too. Is this gonna go anywhere? Okay. Do I need to like...
I think it's just very slow.
I don't think it's going anywhere.
It's very slow.
Alright. Can I fly across there? I don't think so. I think I'm gonna die.
You got it?
Look at that.
I have faith in you.
No, what?
I think... Oh.
Whoa! Whoa! That's interesting. But what the... Oh, it's open. Look at that.
You were about to get so mad.
I was like, whoa! Yay!
Nice. Look at that floppy disk.
Floppy disks. Alright. Can I just swim back? Water looks dangerous.
Yeah.
Oops.
So.
It's okay.
It is 1 o'clock.
Oh, it is. Okay.
I know, time just went by so fast when you're playing a game that you love. Sorry.
Okay, and we will play this next week. Maybe you can play it, Kelly.
Maybe. Who knows? We'll find out.
Yeah. Alright, cool. Well, thanks for joining us, and...
See you next week.
Yeah, bye.